Hey there, Dungeon Masters. Uh, Ever feel like your undead encounters are a little predictable?
Predictable.
Yeah, like stuck in a rut with shuffling zombies and groaning skeletons.
Ah, the
You're
classics.
craving that next level of undead mayhem, right? The kind that makes your players sweat, even when their characters are immune to fear.
Music to my ears.
Well, you're in the right place. Today's deep dive is all about unearthing the secrets of the undead. We're going deep into Libris Mortis.
Ah, a fine choice. A book overflowing with creepy inspiration for D&D 3.5.
And let me tell you, this isn't just about memorizing stat blocks. We're talking about really understanding what makes these creatures tick. Or should I say, what keeps them ticking long after they should be pushing daisies.
Indeed.
To help us with this deliciously morbid task, we have an expert in all things unliving joining us.
Ready to delve into the mechanics and lore of negative energy, the lifeblood of the undead.
The lifeblood of the unliving. Okay, that's both eerie and accurate. So first things first, what actually makes a creature undead in D&D? I mean, it's not like they just get up after taking a dirt nap, right?
Not quite. The key difference lies in how they're animated. Living creatures are fueled by, well, life energy,
Makes sense.
but undead. They're driven by negative energy. This isn't just some abstract force. It's literally woven into their very being. And it affects everything, from their metabolism to how they interact with the environment.
So how does this negative energy manifest in a way that goes beyond they're just dead but not?
Think about it. Living creatures radiate warmth. We
Mhm.
have heartbeats. We breathe. We generate heat.
Right.
Undead, they're the opposite. No heartbeat, no breath, just this unsettling chill that permeates their existence. The Libris Mortis calls it the chill of the grave.
The chill of the grave.
Yes. Imagine your players' swords drawn against a vampire in its crypt and a wave of unnatural cold washes over them. It's not just creepy ambiance, it's a constant reminder that they're facing something fundamentally different.
Okay, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. But undead are more than just ambulatory corpses with a temperature problem. The Libris Mortis also touches on their social structures, which is fascinating to me. How can creatures that are technically dead form societies?
It's actually more diverse than you might think. Some, like ghouls and zombies, are driven by primal urges, hunger, rage. They exist in this hazy state, incapable of forming any real bonds. But then you have creatures like vampires and liches. They retain their intellect, their cunning, even after death. And they use those skills to establish hierarchies, power structures.
Vampires are notorious for their intricate courts and power struggles, and liches, well, they're practically their own evil empires sometimes.
Exactly. And what's even more intriguing is how these intelligent undead interact with the living world.
Yeah.
Some crave company, a twisted reflection of the social bonds they've lost,
Right.
while others maintain ties for more practical reasons, like needing a steady supply of, shall we say, resources.
Let's just say I wouldn't want to be a vampire's accountant. But this all sounds terrifyingly fun to incorporate into a campaign. Speaking of which, let's talk about dealing with these undead hordes. As adventurers, what options do we have? Turning and rebuking, right? Those seem like the classics.
Classics that are rooted in the very essence of what makes undead. You see, Libris Mortis highlights that while powerful undead are especially susceptible to attacks that target their animating force, negative energy. We're talking about spells and abilities that inflict ability damage or drain.
It's not just hacking away at their undead bodies, but attacking the very essence that animates them. Clever.
Precisely. You see, many high-level undead might be overflowing with hit points, making them tough to take down in a straight fight, but their mental defenses, often surprisingly average. A well-placed spell could cripple even the most fearsome lich.
Wow.
The book even provides specific examples of creatures and their vulnerabilities to this. It's a gold mine for DMs.
So it's not just about brute force, it's about strategy, exploiting their weaknesses. It's giving me a whole new perspective on designing undead encounters.
That's what we're here for. And speaking of designing encounters, the Libris Mortis also introduces some creatures that you won't find in your typical monster manual. Oh, the creatures. The Libris Mortis practically overflows with them. It's like opening a dusty tome and finding a whole new bestiary just waiting to be unleashed.
See, now you're speaking my language. Give me all the delightfully dreadful details. What are some of these creatures that really stand out?
Well, one that sends shivers down my spine is the Grave Dirt Golem. And trust me, this isn't your run-of-the-mill golem. It's animated from the very soil of a graveyard, steeped in negative energy.
Okay, that's just creepy on a conceptual level. What kind of nightmare fuel did they use to power this thing up?
Imagine its attacks leaving lingering wounds, caped with that graveyard dirt. Not only does this inflict extra necrotic damage, but think about the psychological impact.
Yeah.
Each hit is a visceral reminder of the grave, further blurring the line between life and death.
That's going right into my next campaign. But there was another one that caught my eye. The Slaymate. The name itself just screams tragic backstory.
And a tragic backstory it is. Picture this. A twisted reflection of the character's former self, bound to a necromancer because of a past betrayal.
Hmm.
It's not just a monster to fight, it's a walking, moaning reminder of past mistakes and broken trust.
Talk about moral dilemmas. Facing down a creature that represents a part of their past, especially a dark one. That's some serious role-playing fodder right there.
Exactly. And it's not just limited to specific creatures either. The Libris Mortis introduces the Necromental template. It's essentially a set of modifications that can be applied to existing creatures, twisting them into horrific undead fusions.
So you're telling me I can take, say, a bear and turn it into an undead abomination, a necrobear.
Precisely. You can apply it to practically any creature, instantly making your encounters more diverse and unpredictable. Imagine the look on your players' faces when they encounter a necromental owlbear or a necromental hydra. The possibilities are endless.
My players are going to love this. Or should I say, hate me for it in the best way possible.
That's the spirit. Now, we can't talk about undead without addressing the elephant in the crypt, or rather, the sunlight in the graveyard. It's the classic weakness, but how does the Libris Mortis handle it?
Yeah, I'm curious too. It's always a bit of a cop-out, right? Oh, the sun is up, gets the vampires out of commission. Is there more to it than that?
There's always more to it. The Libris Mortis dives into the nuances, explaining how sunlight's effects vary greatly among undead. Some, like the classic vampire, are indeed destroyed by direct sunlight, but others, like the Nightcrawler, might only suffer penalties.
So they're weakened but not completely taken out of the fight. That's interesting.
And then you have creatures like the Crypt Chanter. When exposed to sunlight, they become powerless, unable to attack or use their abilities.
Now that's an interesting tactical element. The rising sun could completely change the tide of battle, forcing players to adapt their strategies on the fly. It's not just about brute force anymore.
Exactly. It adds a whole new dimension to encounters. And speaking of strategy, we can't forget that undead, especially the intelligent ones, aren't just mindless killing machines. They employ tactics, exploiting their unique abilities to gain an advantage. So how do we, as DMs, make sure our undead encounters are more than just hack-and-slash fests? I want my players to feel challenged, not just overwhelmed by numbers.
The Libris Mortis has got you covered. They have entire sections dedicated to tactics for different creatures. For example, they talk about shadows, which drain strength with every successful attack, effectively weakening their opponents over time. Or think about those creatures that inflict ability damage, chipping away at a character's very essence.
It's a good reminder that undead can be truly terrifying, not just in their appearance, but in their ability to whittle away at what makes a character strong. It's not just about physical damage, it's about wearing down their resolve, their very ability to fight back.
Exactly. The Libris Mortis even tackles a question I'm sure many BMs have pondered. If undead are so powerful, why haven't they taken over the world? Right. I mean, they're practically immortal, they have magic. You'd think they'd be ruling everything by now.
Well, the Libris Mortis suggests it might be their fatal flaw. Their arrogance and insatiable desire for worship. They're so obsessed with power and control that they often overlook strategic weaknesses. They become predictable, and that's where adventurers come in.
Their hubris becomes their downfall. I like it. That's something my players can definitely exploit. Now, we can't wrap up this undead extravaganza without talking about ghosts. Those incorporeal terrors have a special place in my heart. Or rather, my nightmares.
Ghosts. The embodiment of unfinished business and lingering resentment. The Libris Mortis highlights their malevolence ability, which is utterly chilling. It allows them to possess creatures, taking over their bodies and twisting them to their will.
Okay, that's taking things to a whole new level of creepy. It's like something out of a horror movie.
And the Libris Mortis details the mechanics of it all, emphasizing the sheer helplessness of the victim and the high DC involved in resisting the possession.
Imagine the fear your players will feel, knowing that even their own bodies could be turned against them. It's the ultimate betrayal, especially if it's a close companion or a trusted NPC.
Precisely. It's about creating those moments of true terror, the ones that stick with your players long after the game is over. And speaking of things that linger,
There's this one passage in the Libris Mortis that really got me thinking. It talks about how even a simple haunting presence, the kind that might inhabit an object, is still aware of its surroundings. It's creepy, but also kind of sad, trapped for who knows how long, forced to witness everything but unable to do anything.
what's fascinating is how easily overlooked these haunted objects might be. We tend to think of powerful undead dwelling in elaborate tombs or forgotten temples, guarded by all sorts of nasty creatures.
Right.
But what if the key to unraveling their plans or even defeating them lies in something as seemingly insignificant as a haunted locket?
Or a spectral sword a player just had to pick up. It's like, congrats, you've got one long sword of angst, but also you're now sharing your headspace with a grumpy ghost.
Exactly. And Libris Mortis really makes you consider the possibilities. These objects could be so much more than just spooky set dressing or even magical weapons. They could be extensions of the undead's will, containing fragments of their memories, their power, maybe even their vulnerabilities.
It's like that saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But in this case, it's more like the trapped essence of my enemy might just hold the key to their defeat.
Precisely. It adds a whole new layer to the game. Suddenly, that creepy haunted mansion isn't just about surviving the night. It's about deciphering the stories held within its walls.
This is why I love the Libris Mortis. It's not just about stat blocks and spells, it's about weaving compelling narratives that go beyond the dungeon crawl.
Exactly. It's about giving your players those aha moments, those times when they realize they need to think outside the sarcophagus, so to speak.
Love it. So as we emerge from the depths of this Libris Mortis deep dive, what are the key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind when incorporating undead into their campaigns?
The biggest one is to remember that undead are more than just mindless monsters. They're creatures with a past, with motivations, with a unique relationship to the forces of life and death. Use that.
Don't just throw hordes of zombies at your players. Make them question why those zombies are there. Who were they before? What's driving them now?
Exactly. Lean into those unsettling details, those things that make undead both fascinating and terrifying. Use the Libris Mortis as your guide to craft encounters that are strategically challenging, narratively rich, and downright unforgettable.
It's about creating those moments that stick with your players long after the game is over.
And remember, sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones that linger in the shadows, whispering secrets from beyond the grave.
Ooh, I like that. This has been an awesome deep dive. Thanks for joining me today and sharing your undead expertise.
It was my pleasure. May your campaigns be filled with just the right amount of spooky.
And to our listeners, we'd love to hear how you're using the Libris Mortis to bring your undead encounters to life. Share your thoughts, your terrifying tales, and your most creative uses of haunted doorknobs in the comments below. Until next time, happy gaming.